What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. So, we're just now getting some disturbing news that the Biden administration has just now cut funding for the Wuhan lab in China, which is very, very disturbing. Why are we still funding? Well, up until now, why were they still funding the lab in Wuhan, China? After the virus, why were they even why was it even a question to still fund this lab up until this point? And the only reason they stopped funding the Wuhan lab in China, first of all, why isn't China funding their own labs, right? China has, 1.5 billion people. You would think they have enough tax revenue of their own. They have almost like over four times the population of us. So they have enough of their own tax revenue to fund their own labs, let alone labs that are, manipulating viruses. The only reason the Biden administration stopped funding this lab because Fauci reportedly admits the Wuhan lab worked on man-made viruses after denials. That's right. In fact, take a listen to this and, well, you be the judge. Here we go.
This story, Dr. Fauci finally admits the Wuhan lab in China was creating man-made Frankenstein viruses in laboratories after Dr. Fauci is accused of strenuously denying and downplaying that. Fox News senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram has more. Chad, good to see you.
Likewise, Liz, Fauci sent an email in February 2020 indicating that scientists in Wuhan worked on gain-of-function research. One email says Fauci believed that scientists could have inserted a mutation. Lawmakers want the truth.
I think there's plenty of scientists that will tell you there was censorship because as they put out their feelings about the lab leak theory, things got censored on social media, et cetera, and it was called a conspiracy theory. There was clearly an attack on those that felt there was a lab leak.
Fauci says that COVID likely evolved in nature. Wenstrup worries that the government tried to suppress some narratives about the pandemic. Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will appear at a hearing on pandemic censorship on Thursday. Kennedy remarked that he believes COVID is ethnically targeted and that the virus was crafted to spare Jews and the Chinese. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says RFK Jr. will still testify.
I disagree with everything he said. The hearing that we have this week is about censorship. I don't think censoring somebody, your first action to censure them, probably plays into some of the problems we have.
The hearing addresses whether scientists downplayed particular viewpoints about the pandemic. That includes a theory that COVID came from a lab. Liz?
Chad Pergram, great reporting. It's good to see you.
Now, the reason why we're finding out some of this information is because they're able to go and comb through all of Dr. Fauci's emails. The Republicans in the House are. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this. But the other problem is that the Chinese literally are not forthcoming with any type of information on anything. That's an absolute nightmare. And how much we'll uncover, we'll have to see. I'll keep you up to date. Also here today, China poses, quote, alarming threat to the U.S. energy grid. This is coming directly from lawmakers. China represents an increasing threat to the U.S. power grid. Lawmakers were told during a hearing in which they were warned a cyber attack from the nation could plunge military and other sensitive sites into darkness. Quote, the Chinese activities are quite alarming, said Manny Cancel, Senior Vice President of the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, during testimony before a U.S. House subcommittee, saying, quote, Chinese cyber activities are one of the most dynamic cyber threats. China continues to demonstrate increasing sophistication, including new and adaptive techniques to gain access to networks. The hearing held by the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on oversight and investigations comes as the nation's power grid grows increasingly vulnerable to cyber attacks. While incidences such as physical attacks and vandalism increased some 77% in 2022, according to the committee. Yikes. China is almost certainly capable of launching cyber attacks that would disrupt critical infrastructure services within the US, including oil and gas pipelines and rail systems, according to a report published earlier this year by the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence. And the commerce chief email was just hacked in a breach tied to China. This hearing comes amid increasing tensions with China, including reports last week that Chinese hackers breached email accounts of U.S. officials from the State Department as well as the U.S. Commerce Department Secretary, saying, quote, "Imagine what is possible if the Chinese Communist Party attacks our grid." And we've also seen this many times from Russia as well. Russia has hacked our grid, our services, our government. So we have Russia and China doing this repeatedly, basically telling us, yeah, we're going to do anything we can get away with. And this comes as we're seeing massive power records being set in multiple different states like Texas. You can see this from Texas news stations. Texas sets power grid record. Extreme heat will only get worse, coming directly from the news station in Texas. Texas power grid getting harder and harder every year to operate. ERCOT seeing record-breaking electricity demand for the fourth time this summer. In fact, since they've been recording temperature, we have actually broken the temperature record, I think it's 16 days in a row. And that's on an average worldwide basis. It's not because any one particular city might not be as hot as another. And remember, it's a global basis. So you get states like Texas or Arizona that are literally over 100 degrees in some areas, 120, I think, 118 in parts of Arizona. And we got other countries that are literally just burning. It's crazy. Take a listen here.
The last 16 days on Earth have been the hottest on record. Phoenix hit a daily record 118 degrees yesterday and broke a 50-year record for consecutive days at or above 110 degrees. Experts say this kind of heat is by far the most dangerous impact of climate change. I want to bring in ABC's Brad Mielke, host of the Start Here podcast, for more. Brad, why is this kind of heat so dangerous?
Yeah, well, I mean, an increase in temperature can be dangerous wherever you are, right? But there's a marked difference between going from 70 to 80 degrees where you live and going from, say, 95 to 105 where you live. And I spoke to the climate journalist Jeff Goodell. He's the author of this new book, The Heat Will Kill You First. And he basically said there is a fundamental shift in your body when the temperature rises to a certain level. Specifically, he says when it's about 95 and humid, that is the level at which your body starts breaking down no matter what you're doing when you're exercising. So this kind of idea of, yeah, I'll just sort of live my life like it's normal doesn't necessarily work the same way if we're talking about exerting ourselves outdoors, which a lot of us do. And a lot of us think like 95, no big deal.
So who's most at risk here? Does this affect everybody?
Well, essentially anyone who works outdoors, which is obviously more people than you think, especially when you look around the world. We're talking about millions and millions of people who do not have air conditioning, who can't afford to have air conditioning. They won't have air conditioning in the near future. So it's been easy throughout the last several years to be like, yeah, difference between if it rises from 101 to 104 where I live, whatever, the AC has the same, like it's going to be the same in my house. That's not the case if you're outdoors. It's not the case if you're a delivery man. It's not the case if you're a farmer. And we've seen people dying in fields in the last several years because they felt like they couldn't take a break to go hydrate themselves. They couldn't take a break to stop exerting themselves. And that's the thing. At certain temperatures, it doesn't even matter necessarily how much you're even hydrating yourself. I didn't understand this. I always think, the more water you drink, the better you'll be.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the case, because if you get to that point of 95 degrees and muggy, that's where sweat stops helping your body cool itself down. And really your body can only handle a few hours of exertion.
Yeah, and that really makes me think about the UPS strikes 340,000 workers that don't have air conditioning in their trucks, working in 90, 100-degree heats across the country, and they have to run out of their trucks and go to each and every house, deliver the packages in the heat, and they don't even have air conditioning. Yikes. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date with everything going on here in our country and around the world on a daily basis. Make sure to click the subscribe button down below and the bell icon if you haven't yet, so you don't miss out on any new videos. It's completely free to do so. Thanks for liking and sharing these videos. Click here to see people are being hacked at Walmart, or North Korea may have just started World War III. Click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.